want to start this episode with a moment that I've watched happen to almost every podcaster that I've worked with over these 2 decades. And she finishes an episode that she's genuinely proud of. It said something true, something honest. She did the work on it. She hit publish and she felt her audience was going to love it. And then sometime in the next 24 hours, she watches or listens to somebody else's podcast and she starts to wonder. And this was somebody a little bit further along. They had bigger numbers, fancier podcast studio, a guest she could only imagine to have on her show. And in about 90 seconds, episode that she was so very proud of starts to feel small. Now, nothing about the episode changed, only what she measured it against. And that's the whole thing right there. And I need you to hear it with real clarity, because comparison is not a character flaw. It's a measurement error. And I know some of you out there are saying, but Tammy, everybody just says stop comparing yourself to other people. And you see, that's about the most useless advice anyone's ever handed you. It doesn't serve anybody. It's like telling a person to stop comparing is like telling her to stop noticing. It doesn't work. And it makes her feel broken for failing at it. And that doesn't do any good either. So we're not going to do that today, but I am going to give you something that actually works. Hey friend, welcome back to Christian Podcasting Secrets. I'm your host, Tammy Munson. And without further ado, let's dive into comparison. So let's talk specifically about why comparison lies to you. Because it does, and it lies in very 3 specific ways. 3 distortions, if you will. And so the first one is you compare your behind the scenes to her highlight reel. You know every flaw in your own show. The episode that flopped, the week that you almost didn't publish because life was crazy, the audio glitch that nobody emailed you about, but you still hear it and it bugs you that you still hear it. You know none of that about her. You only see the polished front, the highlight reel, but you compare it to your unedited everything. And that is not a fair fight. The podcaster that you're measuring yourself against, maybe they've been at this for months, maybe even years, and you're looking at the result of hundreds of episodes you never even saw her make, but you're comparing your beginning to her middle and then feeling behind as if you were supposed to skip the part where you actually build the thing. And the third one, and this one is the one that almost nobody names. You compare your real numbers to her performed ones. Half of what looks like massive success online is really marketing. You don't know what her real numbers are. You don't know what she spent to get them. You don't know if the whole thing is held together with tape and a wish. And that's not fair to you because you're comparing your honest backstage to her stage front of house and losing a contest that she doesn't even know that she's in. So what I want to do is I want to name something that makes all 3 of these things absolutely worse. That's AI. And we talked a lot about AI and pod slop and a lot of different things last week. So if you missed that one, go back and take a listen when you're done here, of course. The link is in the show notes for you. But more and more podcasters are handling their entire production. They're turning it all over to AI with Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Riverside, Descript. There's so many different tools to choose from. But AI is only as good as the person that is using it. And AI can be wrong. Because the problem is that when AI is the only thing that's listening to your show, You're getting data, but are you really getting the honest truth about it? AI can give us amazing information. It can give us amazing insight. And it can tell you when it looks at the analytics what the numbers mean, but it has no discernment to it. And it can't really tell you that the idea that you bury deep into the episode is the most you thing you've ever said, and it actually belongs as your hook for the entire thing. It can't always tell you that you're apologizing for saying for something worth paying for and that you need to cut that out. Most of the time, AI can give us all the data and the metrics and the analytics, but it's not always going to give you the real meaning behind it. And of course, there's amazing AIs that can clear up absolutely horrible sound, and it could hand you the information, but it cannot hear your show or watch your show. And so when you don't have an honest read on your own show, your podcast, comparison rushes in to fill the gap. Because if you can't tell where your show is good on its own terms, the only measuring stick left is somebody else's. And so if what I just said about AI landed a little too close to home, you and I need to talk. Maybe you've handed your whole entire production over to AI and you've just started to realize that nobody's actually listening that can give you real, honest to goodness feedback. And so I want to offer you something. And that is a free call with me. Now, this isn't a sales pitch type of call. No, of course not. It's actual strategy and coaching. The same kind my long-term clients invest in month after month. Some of them for 5+ years now. Now, what happens on the call? Well, we will get really clear on what's actually holding your podcast back. We find the one move most likely to shift things, and I tell you exactly what to do next. Yep, that easy. So if you're interested, I would love to talk to you. All you got to do is go over to wildfirecreativecompany.com/discovery call and grab one of the open spots. And I'll make sure to drop the link in the show notes for you. Okay, so let me tell you about my coaching client, Sarah. Now, Sarah is just the cutest thing. And she came to me and said, I want to quit. Like she was genuinely done. She'd fallen in the comparison trap. And she had been comparing her show to another podcast in the same exact niche. And that podcaster seemed to be running circles around her. They started at the same time, but she had bigger numbers and more buzz and amazing episodes and a massive following on Instagram and engagement, all the things. But when we actually sat down and looked at the data on its own terms, not anyone else's, here's what we found. Her listeners were more engaged than the person she was comparing herself to. Her consumption rate was higher. People actually engaged with her. People made decisions because of the content of her episodes. She was actively helping them. But she had been so busy measuring herself against the other woman's reach. And it's true, the other podcasts had a much bigger audience. But Sarah had a more loyal one. And those are very different. And only one of them actually built something that lasts. And here's where this goes a little bit deeper than just a podcast strategy. It's Galatians chapter 6, verse 4. Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. So look at that again. Test your own actions. Take pride in your own work without comparing. Now, that is not a suggestion to feel better about yourself. It's an instruction about where your eyes belong. They belong on your own paper. Remember that from elementary school? Because here's the quiet thing underneath the chronic comparison. And this may sting a little. Comparison is a low-grade distrust of a specific calling you were given. So when you measure your path against hers, you're quietly assuming you were both supposed to be running the same race, but you weren't. And she has her assignment and you have yours. And the assignment God gave you specifically cannot be evaluated by how someone else is doing theirs. Okay, so let's talk about what the actual cure to comparison is. So here's what I want you to do. The cure for comparison is not to stop measuring. It's to measure against the right thing. Now, there's 3 of them. The first one, your own last season or last 6 months of your show. So ask yourself, are you better than you were 6 months ago? Do you have more clarity? Is there more you in your show? You're more sure of who you're actually talking to. Because that is the only growth chart that actually matters. And it's the one comparison that makes you completely ignore. Number 2, your actual listener. Now, this is not the audience that you wish you had. This is the real woman who actually listens to your show. Is she getting what she came for? Is she coming back to listen to your show episode after episode? Is she telling other people about your show? Her experience of your show is 1,000 times more important than how your numbers stack up against strangers. And then number 3, your own calling. So are you doing the thing you were actually called to do in the way you were made to do it? Because if the answer is yes, then you are succeeding at your assignment, regardless of what anyone else's assignment looks like from the outside. Now, your homework this week is a comparison fast, but not the kind you might think. So I'm not going to tell you stop looking at other podcasts because we've already established that doesn't work. So instead, every single time this week that you catch yourself measuring your show against someone else's, I want you to immediately replace it with one very specific question. And the question is, am I better than I was last season or 6 months ago? Now, if you've just getting started with your podcast, is every episode, am I improving? That's the measurement you want. That's it. We want to catch the comparison, swap the question every single time. And by the end of the week, you will have retrained where your eyes go. And you'll have an honest answer about your own growth, which is the only answer that was really ever going to help you. So thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Christian Podcast Secrets. If this podcast has shown up for you in a season where you needed it, I want to ask you something. Would you take 30 seconds right now and leave a rating or a review on wherever you're listening to this podcast? Because reviews help people find out about our podcasts. And leaving a review for this show helps other women find their way here. And that matters to me more than any analytic metric or new microphone ever will. So my friend, you are not behind and you don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. You are exactly where someone running her own race at her own pace on her own assignment is supposed to be. The only person whose progress you were ever meant to track is the one that you were at 6 months ago. And just like our teachers told us when we were in elementary school, keep your eyes on your own paper. So thank you again so much for listening today. I truly appreciate it. Comparison is something that I've had to fight in my own work more times than I'd really care to admit. So this one is personal for me too. Remember, you can love Jesus and analytics and life is way too short for boring podcasts. I'll talk with you next time. Bye, y'all.